Hi, it's me, Josephine, and today I'm talking about this very shocking theme, what I hate about Waldorf. It is not really exactly hate, it's more like things what I disagree. Because the Waldorf education is a very old way to raise a child or to educate a child, and of course, I don't agree in everything with that, and that is absolutely fine. I don't believe that you have to agree with something always 100%. You can just figure out what you can take of that, what are the good things about that, and you can take that with you and for your life, for the way you raise your child, you educate your child, and the things you don't agree, you don't have to do them. Nobody forces you. So I made myself a little list on my tablet so I will not forget anything. The first thing I really absolutely disagree is that Waldorf is not attached parenting. So this means that it is not like gentle parenting or all these other names they have for kind of very similar way to raise a child. When a child is crying, that you help the child to go through the feeling and to accept the feeling and to understand that every feeling is a good feeling, no matter what kind of feeling it is. And I believe that in our time, with the knowledge I have, that this is very important and the best for me to raise my child or my children. And that's why I personally do not agree there with Waldorf. I know a lot of people are raising a different way, and that is okay. You have to go the way what is the best for you. But to me, it is not the best. The same is with praising. That's the next point. I do not praise my child. I believe that praising does not fit to us, because when I'm praising my child, then I might give her the feeling that she is not loved the same if I am not praising her, and that she's then an unloved child during the time I'm not praising her. And I don't want her to ever feel like this. I want that my daughter knows I love her no matter what. I love her unconditional. And that is very important to me. That is why I'm going this way. I do not know how she will be when she's grown up, but like every parent, I'm trying to do my best, and we're all humans. We all do mistakes. We just have to make a decision and then stick with it, right? Or as long as we believe in it, at least. And the next point is that the Waldorf education, especially here in the US, is very, very expensive. And I feel like it should be not like that. It should be normal prices, and then you just, of course, you pay some extras for the materials the child is using, because the Waldorf materials, they are more expensive. It is more expensive to buy wool and all these other things for crafting, like all the wood, and you're working with so many things there because you explore and you do not just sit there with a paper. Of course, that is not that expensive. I understand the difference in between. You pay like a few cents for a paper sheet and then you just fill it out with the pencil you bring to school, or if you actually need the materials to work with it. Of course, this is more expensive, but still, I believe that it shouldn't be so extreme expensive. These schools I've seen here in Portland, they are sometimes so expensive that I just cannot understand how anybody can afford that. Like over 1,500 a month for a school for the little ones, like the preschool, that's kind of like kindergarten in Germany. And I don't get it, how that can be so extreme expensive. I know it's not all over the world like this, and I know it's not all over the US exactly like this with the prices, but there are schools that are really expensive. They are private schools. Okay, and the next point I have is, in Germany, when you go to public school, there are religion classes. There is Catholic, and there is, I think it's called evangelism in English, and there's also ethic if you don't have a religion. And some schools, they already have more things like for Muslims and other cultures, but in general, these are three normal things, but not in Waldorf schools. Waldorf schools only have the religion, or you don't have school and you just have a free class during that time, or you can sit with the other ones and learn their religion. And I don't think that this is the right thing to do. I believe every religion should be taught in school, in ethic. I believe that every child should be able to choose by themselves, or if a family is very religious and they are not Catholics or they are just not Christians, then they should be able to have something for their kids too in Waldorf schools. But there is nothing like that. And I don't think that this is good. I believe that there should be more options. And the next point is food. I believe all the rhythms of Waldorf education, they are wonderful. It is beautiful to have these rhythms and this rituals and all of that, because it makes life easier, makes the child calm, because the child knows what is going to happen as next. But when it's about food, I disagree. I don't think it's the right thing to do to give a child only on certain times food. And I also don't think that this is the right thing for an adult. I believe the best is to eat when you're hungry and to stop eating when you are not hungry, to avoid any kind of issues later. I don't think it is good to overfeed or not to feed enough. I believe the best is if you are connected to your body and you know how much your body needs. And in order to do that, you have to learn it very early. So I always have some snacks outside, some healthy snacks, like I cut some apples and they're standing there, or some grapes and little things like this. And when there is time to eat, then my daughter is able to eat. And we have those Waldorf rhythms with the certain kinds of grains, so she knows what is going to happen. And I believe all of that is wonderful. But in Waldorf schools, there is no food in between. So if the child is hungry in between, then the child has to learn how to wait. I believe it is wonderful that all the kids are eating together. This is really, really wonderful. But I really think that a child should be able to listen to their own body and hear when the body says, okay, I'm hungry and I'm hungry now. I don't need a lot. I just would like to have one slice of apple. And that's fine, because sometimes you don't get enough sugar or other things. I'm not talking about sugar like eating chocolate or candy. I'm talking about the natural sugar from eating a fruit. And this is really important to me. I know that a lot of cultures also have their own food rituals. And I also believe that they should keep them. If they are working well with that, why not? So I think that is also something where every family has to figure out what fits to us, what fits to me, how can I actually do that? Because sometimes when you have more than one kid, then they are also hungry during different times, and you have to figure out, is your baby doing baby-led weaning while the older one is eating that way, or how can you manage? It is not always very easy for parents. Parenting is the hardest job of all. I mean, we can do so much wrong, and we're all trying, right? We're all trying to do the best. So the next point is more about German companies who are creating Waldorf toys. I realize that there are some names of toys, but I do not really understand why they named it that way. I am very sure that people who are not white like me, they might think that this is not very the way they should be treated by getting called that way. Just because this doll looks that way, they don't have to name it that way. Not sure how to explain it. Well, I mean, there is one example, but then it's pretty clear which company I'm talking about. And I really love Waldorf toys. Don't misunderstand. It's just a name. It's just very weird. There is this doll called Kameltreiber, which means the camel jockey. And I don't agree with that name. It might be because it's long ago that they called it that way. Still, it feels wrong. It just feels wrong. I think Waldorf is now all over the world. It's spread all over the world. And it's not just white German people anymore. There's so many cultures who found their own ways to celebrate Waldorf their way, and with a connection to their culture, and that's so beautiful. And then there is this, and it's just, it does not fit anymore. And I'm very happy that so many people, like on Etsy, are selling now wonderful toys where our dolls having different skin colors, because that is just something that is normal. We all have different skin colors. We don't look all the same. Our hair is different, the skin is different, our faces are different. Some people have a big nose, some have a little nose. All of those things are completely normal. And I think that this should be also normal in the Waldorf education. And I mean, there is kind of like this with that the dolls having no faces, and that you can imagine so much more, but then they all are like the ones from Grimm's very white. I made this one actually by myself because I don't believe that they should have all the same skin color. I love when they all look different. I think that is really wonderful. And the next point is about social media. In the Waldorf education, that's kind of a no-go, that your child knows who is Mickey Mouse. But in the real world where we actually live, that is not completely possible, because it will happen. It will happen that there is a party where your child is invited and then they are going to the cinema, or they are going to Disney World or something like that. It's just not possible. And I don't think that Waldorf parents always get the right feeling. If your child goes to such a place, that does not mean that you're a bad Waldorf parent. That just means that you're a parent. You can't just put a bubble around your child. And we often feel like as parents we have to do that because we decided to go the Waldorf way. But it's not just black and white. There's so many colors out there. And you have to think out of the box. And then the last point I have is computers. In Waldorf education, the kids do not get to sit in front of a computer until they're 12 years old. The thing is, we're living in a different world than when Rudolf Steiner started to write down his idea of Waldorf education. And so many things changed. I'm sure if he would have known how it would be now, he would consider to do some things different, because we are living in an age of technology. And if you are not able to work with a computer, then this means that you are not getting a job. Most jobs today, they think it's the most normal thing that you know how to work with a computer. Because it is. We are just living in a different time. And we should think about, what do we want for our kids? I absolutely want for my daughter that she is able to choose on her own a lot of things, kind of the Montessori way, that she is able to choose what does she want to do, in which direction does she want to go, where can I help her to learn. And I also believe absolutely in the Waldorf education with being so natural and having everything very natural, having mostly contact to very natural materials. Also, of course, because some other materials can be quite toxic. But the thing with computers is you should not use computers to shut off your child. But if your child is younger than 12 and interested in understanding how those things work, because we're constantly sitting on our phones, we're constantly sitting on our tablets, we are watching sometimes in the evenings a movie to relax, then I personally decided for my family that we are allowing our daughter to have contact with the screens, but only very specific things on very specific times. As example, this goes more in the other direction with the computer, but I have no grandparents for my daughter here close to us, and sometimes I really need to take a shower. Then I have to figure out how am I doing that. So I decided, after I really tried everything else, that I am okay if she watches certain things during the time when I take my shower, and then when I come out, then we can turn it off. And I also believe when she is a little bit older and she is interested in understanding how computers work, that I will let her work on computers to understand, because it is so important in our world now. And I really don't want her to miss out on anything. I want her to understand everything that is going on in the world. I want her to be prepared for this world, for the life without me. I want her to be able to stand on her own feet and not be afraid of what will come. I want her to know what's going on, to understand and to feel safe, even without me, without my husband. that she's just able to believe in herself and to know who she is, what she can do. And that is just so important to me. And that's why I believe that we should all manage to look through all the options we have and figure out what do we want for our kids, what does fit to us the best and to our kids, and then we can decide. And there is not just Waldorf education. There are so many things, and it is completely okay if you take out the best pieces for you and make them part of your life. So I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if so, and to give this video a thumbs up. You will help my channel so much, and I'm so grateful. And I'm very happy to see you next week in my next video. Have a beautiful time. Goodbye.